Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on the penultimate week, episode 9 of Natsume's Book of Friends, season 6, if you can believe it. It's not the penultimate episode, but next week we're having a two-parter. Next week we're doing both episodes 10 and 11 together, along with discussing volume 16. So next week's gonna be a long one, I feel. So buckle in next week, but this may be a long one too, because I feel like I'm gonna have to ask the moderator to tell me after next week, like, what manga correlates with the remaining episodes of season 6, because this week we not only are getting closer to covering all of season 5, but we're delving into season 6 content as well. I was like, damn, the anime creators really took the manga and spread it over season 5 and season 6 and like split things up. I imagine being a manga reader for Natsume's Book of Friends is kind of frustrating, because when you don't see something in the anime adapted, you have to tell yourself, okay, it may happen next season, and then you have to wait for it to be adapted. That is so wild to me, but that's how it is. So yeah, what can we do? But I want to talk about a few comments before we dive into talking about volume 15, because volume 15 was so good. Such a good manga volume. You need to get it. But yeah, so Sunspots for episode 6 of season 6, which was the one that was focusing on Nijimura and Kitamoto, said that Nishimura's yokai magnified anger, saying, "Do you think the people around you are that useless?" The show does a really good job of examining that cliff's edge where trauma-induced mistrust and self-sacrificing tendencies really start to become unkind to others. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of us have probably been in those situations like Natsume, where we're just like, because of the trauma we've experienced, we have a lack of trust towards different things, whether it be relationships or building trust with other people or family or whatever. And then we kind of, depending on the type of person you are, you may try to take on all of these burdens by yourselves. And it can make you start to become an unkind person, because you think you're doing good, but in reality, you're actually like hurting others because you're not letting them in to help you or be there for you. So, and it can drive people away. So I thought that was a really good comment to bring up. And then Lualba for episodes 4 and 5 with season 6, which is the two-parter that we're going to talk about here in a second with the manga. So it's fitting. Says for a yokai to become, they just did a nice little reminder from what we've experienced, because it's been 6 seasons. So some stuff gets a little lost in the shuffle after you've watched a series for a while. For a yokai to become a familiar, or shiki, they have to form a mutual contract with the Exorcist. The Exorcist gives them a fake name, so they could not force the shiki to do something against their will. They explain this when Natsume goes to Notori's apartment, so Hiragi's name is not technically her name. Notori also mentions that it's forbidden to make a contract using the yokai's real name. We're going to talk about this in a minute, because the anime talks about it way before the manga brings it up, and I didn't realize that until this volume, and I was like, oh, okay. Because I kept remembering when we were looking at season 5's content, I was like, did the manga just not talk about it, and the anime included the scenes? No, they did. They just pushed them back into volume 15. The mutual contract was mentioned too last season with Motoba. Natsume overhears Exorcist talking about how no yokai wants to form a contract with Motoba family because of his ancestor who couldn't keep his promise. So most of his shikis are the big ones that have white masks with robes and are artificial. I forgot about the artificial yokai. Nyanko Sensei mentioned they were man-made back in season 3 and in the manga. Yeah, that's been 3 seasons ago, so I had forgotten that. But yeah, I forget about the man-made yokai. I was like, oh yeah, okay. That makes a lot more sense. I need to have a massage therapist. If you've noticed in some of my videos, I have such a crick and such tense muscles in my neck. I need to find a masseuse, because it's been annoying. So yes, thank you, Lualba, for coming back and reminding us of some of those things that we may have forgotten over the course of watching the series. So yeah, so I want to talk about Volume 15. Volume 15, very similarly to Volume 14, covers a lot of ground. It covers, in Season 5, Episodes 9 and Episodes 10 separately in their own chapters. And it also covers Season 6, Episodes 4 and 5. So we're covering a lot of Season 6 alongside Season 5. So I'm really going to be excited to see, like, when I look at the OVAs, how much I can read before we dive into Season 7. But anyway, I feel like we need to talk about the manga in itself, right? So let's dive into that, shall we? I really like the cover for volume 15. It has Natsume and Natori side by side, both with the green tie or the green ribbon. Natsume is all in white. Natori is all in black. You know I love a motif. I love a motif of opposite contrasting colors, but there's a color pop that ties them together. It's like, mwah, mwah, mwah. And then you have Hiragi in the green kimono to match their ties. And then you have the little pictures of the yokai that are going to be in the other chapters behind them. Oh, Midori Kawa, this is a great cover, and I'm here for it. I'm feeling it. I thought that was really, really well done. So kudos. Yay. So then we have the cover with Reiko, and I like this cover a lot because she's picking fruit, but we don't get to see the yokai whose hand is hoisting her up there, which I thought was interesting. I liked that. Then you have, again, this cover here of Natsume walking off with Natori through the door, and Madara's like going along being like, don't try anything crazy, Natori. He's an underage minor, Natori. It just looks a little scandalous, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, so we cut to the start of episodes 4 and 5 where they go to the movie theater. I do like the way that the mangaka draws Natori. She makes him look very handsome throughout this, but I immediately love where they cut to Natsume and Madara's reaction, and Natsume, it's always just like, huh. And Madara's just like, what a funny comedy. Really good. The expressions were fantastic, right? And Natsume trying to understand Natori. You gotta love it. But yeah, so also want to point out the mangaka has been doing the cutest shots of Madara in recent memory. This one of Natsume holding Madara is, look at Madara. Look at him. Look at him. Look at how cute he is. He's the most precious. He's the most precious. He's just adorable. Love it. Love. And then I don't recall in the anime, I don't recall this yokai walking behind Natsume in the alleyway. I don't recall that. I was like, that did not seem like it was there in the original, so I'm curious. It's not really referenced ever again, so I don't know what it's tying back to. I'm like, but why? So, who knows? But yeah, so we basically get the plot of episodes 4 and 5, and we get our first editorial. Hello, I'm Midori Kawa, and this is the 15th volume of Natsume's Book of Friends. Each episode is exciting and fun for me to draw. I'm so happy I get to continue to work on Natsume. Thank you so much. I probably haven't changed much, but I'll work hard to continue going forward while respecting my initial goals. Thank you for your support. I feel like Midori Kawa, the last couple volumes, has not had much to say in the editorial thing, because it seems like they're just like, they're powering through, probably working on the anime and getting things ready. So, but that's fine. You can't expect them to have something new to say all the time. Again, the black and white. Love the black and white contrast of Natori and Natsume. Do I think that's going to come up again in future seasons? Abso-freaking-lutely I do. But I love that it's highlighting the contrast between them. It's great. So, also, I want to make note that in the manga, it is made very obvious that Natori hears about the Book of Friends. In the anime, it was kind of like left to our audience interpretation of going, did he hear? Did he not hear? It's pretty obvious here that he heard Jinro talking specifically about it. I mean, it's pretty on the nose, right? Or at least I think it is. And then we have this one here. This one here, the robes made Natsume almost look like a wizard or a yokai Shiki himself, which I thought was interesting, but I like that. And again, we have the black and white contrast between the two of them. Also, there's a couple extra drawings in this. I think this one of Tanuma and Madara is super cute, especially with the little cat's tail there. It's adorable. And then, yeah, it is pretty much Natsume sees Natori, and he has clearly heard about the Book of Friends, but he's going to be in denial for Natsume's sake for the rest of this volume, or at least for this chapter set. So, yeah. And so Natsume says here in the manga, he says, I'm the only one who can release yokai from the Book of Friends. He finds that out, of course, after Natori reveals that you have to be related by blood to end contracts. So Natsume's like, if I give up the Book of Friends, then the yokai that are within that Book of Friends, they will never get their names back because it has to be me or my blood descendant that releases them. So it adds a little more pressure to Natsume on what he's going to do. But yeah, and of course my dog is like, play with me. Cuckleberry's like growling down below for me to throw this ball. He is my little yokai. Or my shiki. No, he doesn't listen to me. He does, I'm joking, but the editorial for part 2 here says, Natsume's Book of Friends novel. They published a prose book for the short stories for Natsume's Book of Friends, due to be released in Japan the same time as this volume. The author is Sadayuki Murai, the scriptwriter and series planner for the 3rd and 4th seasons of the anime. He wrote some mysterious and delicate stories. The book includes 2 stories that he contributed for a magazine called Natsume's Book of Friends Selected Stories, Summer and Winter issues, plus 2 brand new stories. They're multi-layered, vivid, and wonderful. I'm so happy, I'm so excited, and I hope that many people will read it. Please check it out. Here's my thing. I know some people will be like, oh, are you going to react to those? And I was like, no, probably not, because they're not by Midori Kawa directly. When there's like spin-off stories that are written by somebody else, I'm a little bit hesitant. I've done it for a few series, but I'm like, And plus, light novels take a long time to read and react to. And if it's not done by the OG author or they weren't directly working with them, I'm like, it's fine. But I'm sure they're really good. I hope people did check them out because I think it's fascinating they had the story writer for the 3rd and 4th seasons, which are both amazing, write for the story as well. But I'm also kind of like, if it's not canon in the manga, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Since this didn't start out being like a novel series. Now, we had the volume with cover with Natori, and now we switch and we have Natsume. And what I love about this is Natsume has the Book of Friends open and Natori's asleep and he doesn't see it. It's so clever. That's so clever. I love it. And then in that same place, you see the boards and everything where they're walking. In the next thing, there's Matoba standing where they were sitting. Genius. Genius. Just get Matoba in there. Make that. Oh, that's so good. I love that so much. So freaking good. So yeah. So then we have this little page here where in the anime, it was kind of told at the apartment and after that encounter with Matoba about the Book of Friends. Here they wait and they talk about it more detail here, where Natori is like, yeah, there is the circle, which we did get this part in the anime where he's like, there's the circle you could see yokai with, but it's forbidden because people could regularly, possibly get cursed. And nobody's really been that successful with it anyway. It's just a legend. And Natsume's like, forbidden legends. We're not going to talk about Taki then. And then he talks about the Book of Friends, or essentially saying when you form a contract, you never use the real names, only aliases. So they kind of rehash that for the audience here. And you bind them with their real names. They couldn't refuse even simple statements. Some cruel spells let you hold their very lives in your hands. But that's another legendary spell that would require quite a bit of power, which Reiko had. So that's getting interesting. I feel like there needs to be a discussion about the ethical implications with Reiko, because the way Natori describes it, the way that Natori would describe the entire incident is if you had the power to control a yokai through their name, you could kill them. And that would be really dangerous and cruel. So the way Natori describes it is that what Reiko has done is kind of cruel. Like, why would you put their names in a book to control them? That seems a little bit maniacal. But the way that Natsume knows it, what Reiko has done isn't necessarily cruel, but he doesn't know Reiko's story fully. So it's creating a little mystery and drama with this situation. And I'm hoping the series explores that some more, right? And he's like, what's wrong, Natsume? You've gone pale all of a sudden. And then Natsume has the look on his face like, oh shit, the thing that I'm holding on to that my grandmother made or stumbled upon herself, we don't know if Reiko made it or not yet, that's not been confirmed, is very dangerous, and the Exorcist would possibly hurt me to try to get it. Which, that last shot of Natori in this series, in this manga, where he's like, I don't know if Natsume needs to have that. I'm like, I didn't include it in here, but there is a shot at the very end where it's Natsume walking away and Natori has the smirk on his face. And he's like, Natsume's awfully young and reckless and innocent. I don't know if he's somebody that needs to have an item that dangerous. And I'm like, We're gonna make this complicated, aren't we? We're gonna make this complicated, aren't we? We got a nice little end of the chapter reprieve, but I'm like, this is gonna get complicated, and I'm not quite ready for that, to be honest with y'all. So then, the end of the chapters are the moment there that made me cry in this damn episode, where he's like, would you let me stay by your side? And the idea that this yokai was driven mad by wanting to stay with this person that could no longer be with him. And Natsume realizing that yokai could be driven to this state of what happens if he loses his abilities to see the yokai. What happens if a yokai was like this with another human? I mean, there's all sorts of different layers to this scene. But, and Notori offering to do the exorcism for him, but he's like, no, I got this. It's crazy. So yeah, so then we have chapter 63. This is super cute. I love this little cover with Natsume and Madara. Madara, again, with sitting on Natsume's knees. It's so freaking precious. I love it so much. And then we have editorial 3, which is, this is the mushroom chapter. Oh my gosh. The mushroom yokai. All right. Exorcists. People who can see yokai get into scary situations. People who can't see yokai get more scared because they can't see what's happening. It's so fun to think of both sides when I'm drawing a story about exorcists. Takuma must have been a nice mentor for Notori, or at least someone to talk to, since he doesn't get treated very well in exorcist circles. I kind of love that, because Takuma, you know, is kind of shunned by the exorcists, especially now that he's lost his abilities and he's not useful anymore. And then you have Notori, who learned from him, who kind of prides himself in being an outsider as well. So that's kind of cool. I like that. But no, just the damn mushroom the damn mushroom yokai is so precious. I love Madara being like, "Be gone, this one's mine." I love when he's like, "Come on, let me be my servant." It's so cute. But y'all, when I tell you how adorable this damn little yokai is, when he's like reaching there with his little beady eyes, and if we have a bracket of the top cute yokai, he's gonna be up there because he's so precious. He's so adorable. When he has his little hair and his mushroom cap off and he's crying because his friend went away and Natsume just like gives him the head pats. I got emotional reading this chapter. And that shouldn't happen, but it did. I was like, damn it. It's so cute. And then, yeah. And then Natsume's like, but why would you still follow him even after you're rejected? And he says, well, amending appearances isn't good enough. Even if we live in different worlds, I want to make the effort to at least try and get closer. So Mitsuzara telling Natsume that, I feel like that was such a moment for Natsume, because it shows him, you know, Natsume is trying to be this mediator between the humans and the yokai, and he's finding it difficult because of how different those worlds are. And Mitsuzara kind of gives him this reassurance by saying, yeah, these worlds are different, but at the end of the day, that's what makes it worth it. You need to at least put in the effort to try if you want to be with them. And it feels like a very revolutionary moment for Natsume. So I love that. And then him with the little book to train. He's like, I'll be fine. No need for help. I can do this. Don't you agree? And Natsume being like, yeah, I bet you can. And him holding the book is just like Natsume holding the Book of Friends. Like, the Book of Friends is such a burden. The Book of Friends is so difficult and makes his life hard. And it shows just the gap between these two worlds. But just like Mitsuzara there taking the book and being like, I can do this. I can train. I can get what I want. I've got belief in myself and faith in myself. It shows Natsume, it's like, yes, what you're doing with the Book of Friends is worth it. Now, don't let anybody else have it. So then we round out with the episode that is a special episode of Toko and Shigeru. Y'all, the mangaka makes them look older than I feel they look in the anime. They look a little older in the manga than they do in the anime, but Shigeru is still husbando material. He really truly is, right? I just love Toko. I love her, like, going through and narrating this chapter. We do get confirmations that the anime is vague, but we get confirmations in the manga that kind of prove what we've talked about when we discussed those episodes. Like, for example, they're talking about when Shigeru was little, he lived here with his parents and grandparents. It's quieter now since we couldn't have any children. So this is basically Up. It's basically Up. They're the couple from Up. She couldn't have any kids. And it makes me want to cry all over again because she wants kids so bad and she wants to be a mom so bad. And it's so sad that she isn't given the chance to get what she wants. It made me emotional because it's, again, very understated. And so then this part made me laugh, though, where Shigeru, she's like, I wish we could go on like this forever and ever, the two of us. And she's like, is there a funeral? And then he says, my mother's sister's father-in-law's. So, okay, his mother's sister's his aunts. His aunt's father-in-law. So his great grandfather-in-law, is that right? Yeah. They're so far removed, they could hardly be considered relatives. But he helped me out once a long time ago, so I need to go pay my respects. So yeah, they're distant relatives. So then we have editorial number 4, concert. I went to a piano solo concert the other day by Makoto Yoshimori, the composer for the anime Natsume and Hotarubi. We were all glued to our seats, touched by his performance and the way he opened up the piano in ways I'd never heard before. Director Omori, Mr. Yamada, and the yokai designer, Mr. Sato, from the Brains Base Animation Company, and my editor were also there. I hadn't seen them in a while either, so it was a deeply moving day full of pleasant memories. And then hometown. I recently went back to my old hometown. The mountains and rivers hadn't changed much and still displayed their vivid colors. There were changes in the towns and roads, with some places becoming quieter and others more bustling. It was very soothing to see all the old places in a new light. That makes so much more sense now of the setting of this story, that she's writing and creating this little countryside and everything from probably her childhood memories. That's so cool. I love that. And then Natsume is very much a story about the passage of time. So the idea that time passes, but it's still kind of, more of the same, but more different. I love that. So yes, he goes to the funeral and Shigeru sees Natsume, who looks disheveled. His hair's long, his clothes are dirty. Mangaka. And then Shigeru is deeply impacted by it. I like his little, like he's just mad when he gets back and he's like, I'm pissed. I'm pissed that they're mistreating this kid. And we're like, we're right with you, Shigeru. We're right with you. And that's when the crow starts showing up. So yeah, I thought there was a couple little extras that were really cute. In the anime, I don't know if they showed this, but you've got this really cute little panel that shows Toko and Shigeru's little cots. They're like side by side. I know in Japan they do like the mats on the floor and they don't really have Western style beds, but they have like the mats and they're just put side by side so they can have their separate sleeping spaces, but they're next to one another. It's so cute. And I like Shigeru's little glasses on the little towel in front of him. Adorable. And then we have this conversation with Toko as she's thinking about the past. And this page really got to me emotionally because she's like, what's wrong with me? It's when she's on the girls' trip with her friend and she's separated from Shigeru. She says, sometimes I get lonesome for no reason. It wasn't always easy. There were hard times and bitter times too. But as I look back, the happiness stands out. And that's so emotional because not only the idea of being lonely, even though you're like with company, which is so relatable, but also the idea of like her and him probably going through struggles, having kids, and then like being bitter about that and having to have like hard truths of we may never have children. What are we going to do about that? And just, it pierces my soul because Toko is such a kind-hearted person. And for her to like reveal that she still has those struggles, it makes me want to cry. And then when she comes back, Shigeru's like, I want to take this kid in. I've been cleaning out the second floor. And he's like, you don't have to answer me right away. I've given it a lot of thought and I want to think it over with you. It's about us and our dear home after all. And her tearing up. I'm like, I'm right with you, girl. That's just, they're so wonderful each other and they deserve the moon. And they get it with Natsume. And it's so wonderful. What's not wonderful is when Natsume shows up at their house and he's disheveled. His clothes are too big because he's so thin, but he's like bandaged up and has all these injuries. My dude. And that's kind of one of the things where like, this was before he even had the Book of Friends, right? Before he even had the Book of Friends. So it's like, even if Notori took that away from him, Notori, you know, in this volume tells Natsume, he's like, I want you to live a normal life. And it's like, that's great and all, but at the end of the day, that taking that book away from Natsume is not going to give him a normal life. That's just not going to happen. So what do we do with that, you know? So then the fifth editorial, the final one, says the Fujiwaras. Toko is a kind woman and a little overprotective and wide-eyed. Shigeru shows up when there's something important, but you never know if he's in or out of the house. He's almost like the yokai. Which is interesting, right? Toko's kind of like Natsume, and Shigeru's kind of like a yokai. It's interesting. Natsume isn't used to a family, and he's embarrassed to think that Shoko and Shigeru might notice this. But it's also a new experience for the Fujiwaras. They'll continue to fumble forward in their relationship, alternating between being too reserved and too forward. I love it. I love that Natsume is worried about, you know, what to do because this is the first, like, legit warm and kind family he's had. And the Fujiwaras are, like, they're trying to figure out what to do as well because it's the first time they've been parents. So I love it. I love everything about it. This volume was amazing. And then when Natsume points out the two crows and she notices and she's like, oh, I'm glad he's not alone. And to her, it's like reassuring that if something happens to either her or Shigeru, they'll be there for each other even if it can't be seen. The way that she views the concept of the yokai in that moment is slightly different from Natsume, but it's beautiful. And then the two of them kind of leaning against each other and Shigeru seeing that. I live for it. I live for it. So then we have the afterword. I love this shot of Notori and Natsume in the robes with the Book of Friends, and they're both facing away from one another. That's not ominous at all, mangaka. That's not ominous at all. It says, thank you for reading. When you grow closer to someone, you might end up growing farther apart from someone else. Natsume always kept his distance from others, so he didn't really understand this before. I hope I'll get to depict these dilemmas that Natsume will face in interpersonal and human yokai relationships, and the subtle changes in the people around him. That's not ominous at all, right? Because it literally is. It's like Natsume, if he grows closer to Notori, does he grow further from the yokai? If he grows closer to the yokai, does he stray further from how he would be with the Exorcist? And how will his relationships impact how like Notori acts and how he develops and changes? Because as people change, so do others around us. So it's like, what do we do about that? So chapters 60 to 62 were the episodes 4 and 5 of season 6, Different Eyes. The Book of Friends is the reason yokai come after Natsume. He wants to talk to Notori about it, but since exorcists are a threat to yokai, and since he literally holds the fate of many of them in his hands, he doesn't want to betray them. Back in volume 1, Natsume might have taken the Book of Friends and disappeared with Nyanko-sensei somewhere if he really got into trouble. But working on this episode, I don't think he'd be able to do that any longer. How things have changed. I looked at Natsume trying to understand Tanama, even though they live in different worlds, and I thought he was doing the right thing, but the whole thing also felt comical. I wondered how Notori felt when he saw Motoba making Natsume help with the exorcism work. Oh, that's a very good point. That's a very interesting point. This case was frustrating for Notori, who had to witness his old mentor become so oblivious that he could no longer see yokai in his own house. I think the existence of Natsume, with his different opinions, and Haragi and the others, continues to affect Notori. I would have liked to draw more about Mr. Takuma and Tsukiko, and I'll do that when I get another opportunity. Good! I really liked them. I liked their characters a lot. I thought they were great. I guess with the outline of the one bird yokai girl in the top, that probably is what Natsume saw earlier, and she was just following him back to Takuma's house. I think that's really interesting, the conversation about Tanama, saying even though they live in different worlds, I thought he was doing the right thing. Because I think Tanama and Notori react very differently to Natsume based on their experience. So That's going to be interesting to see open up. And then, yeah, chapter 63 and 64. Chapter 63, A Difficult Path. This was the episode that came after the exorcism story, so I wanted something without a villain. But then it became a story about the characters feeling impatient with themselves. Natsume can clearly see that Mitsuzara will face huge obstacles in the future, but he sees the little guy flounder about towards his goal and swallows his words. Maybe he sees some hope. I couldn't decide on what Mitsuzara looked like. Then I got the idea that he'd take his hat off and his face would look exactly the same. Then it came easier to me that he would look like a mushroom or a pancake. I didn't really want to suggest that Mitsuzara's optimism was correct, so I kept revising the story until the very last minute. Oh, I love that. You can see him included now with them. Yeah, I love that because Mitsuzara, like, it's you know, I think Natsume finds hope in Mitsuzara's quest, but it's not like a perfect, ideal, end-all, be-all, perfect solution. So we shall see. And then chapter 64, Toko and Shigeru. This was a story I've always wanted to do. Natsume, Nyanko-sensei, and the yokai don't show up much. I was nervous about whether people would still enjoy the story, but I was happy to have the opportunity. Oh, you underestimate our love of Shigeru and Toko. If you think we wouldn't enjoy that. So, wow, it's been 10 years since I did the very first chapter of Natsume's Book of Friends. This title gave me my first experiences of chatting with my readers at autograph sessions and my books getting their own Obi ads. When I'm riding the train or a bus, there are moments when I'm awash with happiness, and it almost chokes me up. I will work hard to create manga that people can enjoy for all of my supporters out there. Thank you very much. I can't imagine writing for 10 years and just now getting to these stories. Like, these stories are some of the best in the whole series, but the fact that you've had to work for a decade before you can reveal these stories to the public, insane. Insane hype. That is so crazy to me. So wild. Y'all. But volume 15 is amazing. I really, really, really recommend getting volumes 14 and 15. They've been some of my favorites so far, and seasons 4, 5, and 6 have consecutive. The show just gets better and better. I would say season 5 is really hard to beat, but this one's right up there with it. So I really hope that you get those volumes because they're really good. But yeah, thank you for letting me talk about volume 15 and gush about it because I was having so much fun reading it the other day. I was just sitting there being like, I can't wait to talk about this. And so I've been rather impatient about it. But with that being said, we need to get on to episode 9, right? So you may be wondering why I'm wearing a different outfit now. But I'm actually recording this the next morning after the first part that you just saw. I had an event yesterday afternoon, so I'm like, I'm going to watch Natsume's Book of Friends before I go to that event. It's going to be great. I've got plenty of time. And so I recorded the beginning where I reviewed volume 15, and then I went onto the streaming service, Crunchyroll, What We Doing, and I went to the episode, and the only option it would give me was the English audio. And I was like, really? And so I tried to go back. I went back to episode 8 and there was Japanese audio, English audio. And then I went back to this episode and was like, it still said just English audio. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to just watch the English dub. It's going to be a weird one-off episode and I'll get English subtitles and it'll be great. So I did get through the OP in my original reaction and I got to the first 3 lines. It sounded like it was Nishimuro talking, which we'll find out here in a second. But there were no subs, and the sub option was chosen, and I was like, what is going on? So I didn't have time yesterday, but I messaged Sunspots. I DM'd Sunspots, who has been one of the pseudo moderators for this channel when Plura isn't able to. And I was like, can you please help me? Because is there any way to get access to episode 9 with subs? I won't be able to react to it today, but it can be tomorrow whenever. I'd really appreciate it. And they're like, sure. And so they sent me episode 9 and they went ahead and sent me episodes 10 and 11 so I could finish this season just in case Crunchyroll's being weird. I know you guys got a lot of series on your channel, but you can't say there's a sub and dub and then not have it, because that's weird. And so I was like, I'll just go back tomorrow morning when I get up. I'll just get up and record episode 9, and we'll talk about it and have plenty of time, because I didn't want to rush myself. I could have rushed myself, but I was like, no, I want to give myself plenty of time in case there's lots to talk about. So sorry I don't have my cute outfit from yesterday on. I I was just like, dang it. So anyway, that's fine. We're going to watch episode 9 now. But thank you, Sunspots, so much for hooking me up with these episodes because I was like, what is going on? So anyway, what can we do? What can we do? All you can do is laugh. So I have the episode pulled up. I did randomly clip to make sure there were subs. There are subs. So thank goodness. But we're not going to waste any more time now. I'm super excited. I'm so happy I finally get to watch this episode. Yay! So we're going to check out Natsume's Book of Friends, Season 6, Episode 9. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let me get my mic set up so it's catching everything. Catching no strays. And let's go. That is just so wild to me. I'm like, what in the world? I have to turn that out. Ooh, the sound quality is robust. Oh, we actually get the lyrics. Oh, that's a sad lyric. Why are we doing this, show? This is like really melancholy lyrics. Oh, unless I make it bloom. Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, that's not wrong. These lyrics feel very telling of Natsume up until this point. Oh! Aww. For what bloomed from those tears? Oh my god. Oh, those lyrics are so good. Oh, that's so sweet. Aww. 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 Okay, dang it. Well, that was the line. Yeah. Study session on the mountain. I mean, I love Tanama with them. He's like, I just want to be with you all. Yeah. Ah! Oh, Tanama has such a good voice. A 3-day-long study camp for volunteers. Dang. Wow, this generation is so different than the US generation. If you told the US generation that they'd have to clean a building and that would be relaxing, they would disagree. Oh. What are we looking at? Oh, I love Tanama checking to see if he's okay. Okay. Oh. What flows? The fact that there were 4 masks and they were all different emotions, I'm curious. Oh. Okay, so they can see them too. What? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Which one is the yokai? One of them looks like a shy guy. Brothers? You have more than one brother? Interesting. Would like the 3 masks fit for Nishimura, Kitamoto, and Tanama, and the one that's the yokai fit for Natsume? I like that Tanama gets romance out of it. I mean, perfect for Natsume, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see about that. Uh, oh my gosh. Were you expecting summer loving, Nishimura? Ah! Sasada, you're not even here. Natsume's always finding that rain out. Oh, that little bird in the tree. Ahem. Oh, shit. Y'all are pretty calm about this flood. Oh my god, Nishimura. Oh, what about the shrine with the masks, though? Will it be affected by the flood? That bird! Don't get near the river. This is not foreshadowing. Just telling you, don't get near the river. Ah! Meanwhile, not in the bathroom. Yeah. Oh my god. Ah! Oh my god, of course. Of course there is. Of course you are. Oh my god. Ah! Oh my god. Oh. Just a boat in the middle of the river. No. Oh my gosh. Well, that's creepy as hell. Oh. Why are we doing the close-up? Oh, maybe it was trying to get her to look at him. Interesting. Interesting. No! Why would you think she was? Natsume, you know better. Oh yeah, my cat snuck here. Oh. 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 Oh! What? Ah! It does not look like a piglet at all, but okay. Oh no, Taki will be uncontrollable. Ah! Why didn't he just turn into a different cat? Yeah. Ah! Ah! Yeah, maybe you should tell Tanum about it. I wonder if it's like a yokai that comes after floods. What is this, a pop quiz? Oh. 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 The Shy Guy mask. Oh, man. Oh, it's his glasses. I thought the mask was attached. That's so weird. Oh, that's so weird. That's so weird. Oh my gosh. Okay. Right. Oh, interesting. Uh, uh, yeah, really. Oh my god. He does look kind of like a pig there. But that means you have to get close to the teacher. Oh my gosh, is it connected to the water spirit? It's gonna be like The Shining where it all comes cascading down. Oh, creepy. Oh, creepy. Creepy! I was expecting water to like cascade down like The Shining when the blood comes out of the elevator. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's not real water. Oh. Ooh. Okay. Ooh, okay. Antonova doesn't see it. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Hmm. Oh, with the flow, yeah. A flow. Oh. 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 Oh my god. And it just moved from person to person. Oh, creepy. Yeah, why is it moving? Why is it moving person to person? That's weird. That's weird. Is it trying to get closer to him? Oof. It's gonna like attach itself to Tanama or one of their faces, and it's gonna be super creepy. No, no, not good. Hmm. Yeah, he's gonna look over. Oh. 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 Oh my gosh. Oh. Oh, Natsume, sweetheart. Tanama's got to smooth that over with him. Oh. Uh. Okay. Interesting. And he opened it up. Yeah, you're kind of interested. Sure, sure, sure. Oh, the goddess. Okay, so was she the one in the river? Hmm. Which we just talked about a few episodes ago with the one yokai. Hmm. But what about one of them? Hmm. Oh. Oh, it's the last one. Hmm. But why was it going from person to person? Hmm. Oh, interesting. Oh. Tanema nodding in the background. Yes, saying there's a bug on him. Oh, good job, Tanema. Way to cover. Way to cover, Tanema. Good work. Oh. Ooh. Oh, the hair. Oh. Oh, don't cry, little sad mask. Little shy guy mask. Uh. It's probably the hair, but looking for it. Mm. Sure, 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 sure. You're not just helping him because you care. Sure, of course. Oh, that's so cute. Heyo. Oh. Mm. Ooh. Oh, wow. Oh. 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 Okay. Oh. Maybe seems so. So does that mean the fourth mask won't show up yet? Mm. Yeah. Yeah, his voice was so soft. Really good. Mm. Ooh. Oh, doggy! Yes! Silly girls. Oh. Hmm. Good. Good. I was going to be sad if that one showed up. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Oh, I want to see the lyrics to this. Funny, we talk about waiting for dawn when we have this episode. Oh. Her voice is so pretty. Oh. Oh. Why is OP and 80 so melancholy, y'all? Oh, wow. Is it referring to Reiko? Interesting. Okay. 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 Okay, y'all. Oh, this was like such an interesting episode. This is a really good episode. Okay. It was very somber and very quiet and easygoing, which was crazy, but I really liked it. I really liked it a lot. So yeah, so let's dive into this. So they're having a study session on the mountain for the year, which I find Japanese education compared to US education so fascinating. But then again, it varies so much because Natsume and his classmates are kind of in rural Japan, it seems. And so I compare their rural Japan experience to my rural American experience with education because in the US it varies depending on where you're from immensely. But in rural US, we don't exactly have a lot of funds to have, we don't really have summer study sessions. We don't really have off-campus off study sessions because there's just a lot of other extenuating factors. But I find that interesting that they just have these study sessions in the mountain. And they're like, I wish we could have gone to the sea. The thing that's crazy is the building that they go to study and everything is like a school, and they clean it up and everything during their off times when they're not studying. I don't know. Just from the substitute teaching that I've done and just from my experience with secondary education, because I'm more in higher ed, I don't think American students would be willing to like clean and study voluntarily. I don't think they'd be up for that. So it's a very big culture shift coming from Japan to America. And there are pros and cons. I wish that some of the kids would be more enthusiastic about it like these students are, but then, you know, there's a whole other side of that as well. So I get it, but I do love the locale. The locale by the river is really neat. It was very ominous with the flooding that was going on in this episode. It felt very ominous and kind of timely because by the time you all are watching this, it will have been a few weeks, but a few weeks back in the US, there was a really horrible flood that went through the Guadalupe River in Texas, near San Angelo. And it was really devastating. There was hundreds of people that died. It was really tragic, and it was a very big deal. And you don't think about flooding being such a big deal until it happens and you see the devastation it can cause and how quickly it comes and goes. That was something in this episode that stuck out for me watching it. I was like, yeah, the floodwaters came so quickly. And when they looked out their window and it was just a flood, I was like, that's terrifying. If I was a kid in high school, I would be freaking out if I looked out the window and saw the entire place flooded. But I guess maybe they're used to it. I think the big part of Texas was it wasn't used to that kind of flooding so fast. It was like a catastrophic once in a century flood. So, or more than a century if you buy into global warming. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting. And and the fact that it was just gone so quickly as well. You really underestimate the damage and the severity and intensity of a flood until it happens. And it's like, that's just wild to me. Crazy, 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 crazy. So yeah, so they're there, and Natsume's like just having a normal boys trip with my guy friends, and Tanama, and Taki's here, and Sasada's not supposed to be here, but she's here too. It's just a great time by all, right? Just a great time. But yeah, I thought that this was a really good episode. I love anytime the guys get to hang out together. Tanama is an unsung hero. Tanama is an unsung hero in this episode because he not only saved Natsume's skin whenever he had the moment with Nishimura trying to get the mask off, and he made Nishimura realize it was a bug, which top tier Tanama, top tier getting that in line. But he's also just so soft-spoken and kind and romantic. Tanama was talking about how the goddess on the mountain with the human was romantic, and I'm like, that's right. You compare yourself with you and Natsume to that goddess and that human. Go on, do it. I'm here for it. Book of boyfriends. It was great. But yeah, every year the school holds a 3-day long study camp for volunteers. The 4 volunteers is interesting. Because, yeah, they just clean the school building. I feel like the school is like free labor. The school's like, we get free labor for a weekend? Hell yeah. And then you go out and clean the riverside and the mountain itself. Now, that part would be nice. The going outside to the mountain and cleaning up the mountainside and the riverside, like that part would be very, very fun. Because you are out in nature and it's a different viewpoint. Just the cleaning up the school building, I'd be like, oh, okay. But yeah, so we've been assigned a small shrine on the other side of the river. I do love it. It's very peaceful. Again, we've talked about how this season is very reflective for Natsume, and having this shrine here. I live for the moment where they're cleaning up the shrine and Nishimura's like, hey, come look at this. And Tanama gives a glance over to Natsume like, hey, are you okay with this? You know, there could be a yokai inside that shrine. Are you okay? And Natsume's like, yeah, we're fine. That's Book of Boyfriends material right there. I love that part so much. And so, yeah, the shrine seems to be good shape. I like the idea that they can all see the masks, but they only see 3, and the Shy Guy mask is only seen by Natsume. It looks like the Shy Guy from Mario. It looks like a little Shy Guy's mask where he's like just looks like that. Super cute. What Flows is the name of the episode, which ties to the river really nicely. Yeah. So 4 mask kill. I love the idea of these 4 deities. You have the 4 seasons, you have the 4 directions, north, south, east, and west. And just, I like the number 4 has a lot of spiritual connotation to it. But I like the idea that 3 of the spirits have lost their powers and 1 still remains to protect the mountain and watch over the goddess. Like, I like that. I like that a lot. It's cool. And so, yeah, and so Nishimura explains, they say the god of the mountains once lived here, and then he moved up the mountain, and 4 of his followers stayed behind to protect the mountain and the god. But then they're like, that's the story. But Nishimura uses the he pronoun for it to be male, but then we find out that it was a woman that was in love with a human. So that's interesting. I don't know if that was just a translation error, but I like Tanema saying that it was romantic. They don't seem evil or anything, but the masks are always kind of creepy. Which, yokai in general, whether they're evil or not, they always do kind of have like a... Well, as we've seen from 6 seasons worth of the yokai, some of them just look a little creepy. Mm-hmm. They can't help it. They're like, we can't help how we look. Even though they can shapeshift. So yeah, Natsume just wondering, like, this all seems very nonchalant and not, you know, confrontational, but is that going to be the case for the rest of this episode? We shall see. So yeah, Nishimura just wants to make this a 1990s rom-com because he keeps on being like, what? We've got a co-ed study session, but we can't be with the girls. I also like this teacher, Norimiya. He's reminding me of my old PE teacher in high school. My PE teacher in high school was also, because hashtag rural school, hashtag small school, he was also like the athletic director and the girls basketball coach and the physics teacher and the theater director, but that is neither here nor there. But he was the girls basketball coach, and then he was also our PE teacher. So naturally, he did not want any of his girl ball players getting injured during PE. So he had a very strict rule. He was like, guys, you cannot harm any of the girls. You cannot touch any of the girls. And it wasn't just him trying to be chivalrous. It was literally him protecting his basketball players. It did work out. It was great. I was like, good. Nobody's going to tackle me in flag football. Good to know. But this guy kind of reminds me of him. And I love that. What does he say there? He's like, the cafeterias are cramped, you see. He's like, why did we even come here? And then he's like, the boys and girls are taking turns with the baths. And then I like Sasada, who is not really in this series at this point. She's like, the boys are being perverted. It's really just Nishimura. I love it. So yeah, so then these floodwaters come. Terrifying. Terrifying. I guess they're used to it. I'd imagine if I went to Japan and there was an earthquake, I've never been through a major earthquake. I've been through like a tremor, a little shake, not much, nothing to write home about. Like you could barely even tell it happened. And so I imagine that if I went to Japan and there was like a decent earthquake, I'd be a little freaked out because I've never been through one before, but their infrastructure is so capable with it. So I'll be like, okay. And she's like, don't say that. And so they're worried about, you know, the school getting, you know, flooded. But he's like, no, we're on high ground. It's fine. And if needed to, we can evacuate from one building to another. And Nishimura's like, oh, so we can be co-ed. And then Natsume's like, oh, silly Nishimura. Love it. So, yeah. So then the next day, the waters have just receded, which is crazy. I love the little birds that they animated throughout this episode. Super cute. And he's like, stay away from the river. There could be a bunch of debris. There could be junk there. Who knows? But so Natsume goes down, and that's when he sees Nyanko-sensei. And he's like, why are you here? He's like, oh, I snuck in your bag. The only thing about this episode that felt a little bit anime original, and maybe it's just, you know, it felt a little bit anime original considering we're 6 seasons into this, is Natsume being a little bit naive of, like, Nyanko-sensei sneaking in with him. Like, come on. And then at first, when he looked at the yokai, the goddess, at first I was like, why is he so hyper-focused on that? He's seen yokai before. But then it was like the goddess drawing him in, so it made more sense. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I'm here to study. So I love that he disguises himself as in order to prevent embarrassment, he disguises himself as a boar. Which, from seeing wild boars and raising pigs with my family for years, Nyango-sensei looks nothing like a boar except for the color of his fur. But it's fine. Everybody's confused him for like a tanuki and everything else but a cat in this series, so why should we expect any different? The goddess in the boat is the creepiest thing. And what I meant was the only distracting, like, was this anime original moment was when Natsume's like, that didn't seem human. I'm like, oh, you think someone with their head stuck in the water floating down the river looking like a corpse didn't look human? Gee willikers, yes. But, I mean, it could look different in the manga, and it could have been just a moment of, but, Natsume, it's been 6 seasons. You know that's a yokai. Sir, you know that's a yokai. Come on now. It's really creepy. It has a very grudge look in the water, but then the white skin makes sense for the goddess because she's, like, completely pale. And then when she gets her head out of the water, then she looks very ethereal and beautiful. But the white robes kind of were interesting, too, because they almost seemed like death, but, you know, she's a goddess of the mountain. Whatever. I liked also Madara saying, don't look at her. Like, it felt like she was going to draw you into the water, which I'm surprised that the river, one thing I wanted to talk about with Natsume's Book of Friends is that this series, one kind of interesting thing about it is the stuff with the yokai, some of it is never fully explained, which is really kind of unsettling, but it works for this series because it kind of adds to that, oh, you're not going to tell us about that? Oh, okay, that's kind of creepy. Like the river. So her, like, getting the river to keep edging towards him in the school building, like it was trying to, like, draw him in, like the flow of it to get him caught up in the tide. Once he and the mask work to find the hairpin, the river is never mentioned again, and it never comes to, like, I was expecting the river to, like, get Natsume at some point and cause a conflict, but it never really does, and it's never fully explained, and it just kind of goes away. And that to me is creepy. If you just introduce an element into the story that's kind of scary and then it just disappears and you're like, we're not going to talk about that? Okay. Like that was kind of creepy. And Natsume's Book of Friends does a really good job of introducing those elements without really fully explaining it. He's like, just this once, Madara says. Just this once. Sure, yeah. I love his little boar piglet form. I would be Taki. I'd be freaking out too. It's super cute. I love that he's supposed to be a boar, but he looks and acts like a cat. Tanema just with the little blush and laughing is really funny. I think that's adorable. Tanema is perfect for Natsume. My top ship is Tanema and Natsume. They're perfect together. I love them. They're so great. So yeah, the mask part, where it was just floating from person to person, I love how they explained it by the end, because that was genuinely creepy. That was just the idea of walking around and there's people with masks on that no one else can notice. That's something straight out of freaking Doctor Who. That was creepy. I was like, no, thank you. But yeah, just so creepy. And the fact the man's glasses looked like a string that attached the mask to the face, but then you're like, oh no, it's just his glasses. I was waiting for the mask to attach itself to Tanema or to Nishimura or Kitamoto. I was waiting for that to happen because Natsume was like, well, it's just a mask. It's not seemingly harming anybody. But the moment it attaches to his friends, that's when he's like, no, I got to do something about this. That's not right. And I loved the explanations because I was like, what is the mask doing? Why is it not affecting people? Why is it just there? But I love the explanation by the end of this episode where the mask has lost power. The yokai has lost power over time. And now it's literally just the yokai just trying to attach itself to a person, anybody, to try to get help, but it doesn't have enough power left to control them or really do anything once it's there. That was so well explained, and I was like, that makes total sense. Okay. Like, that was just really, really well done. I enjoyed that explanation. But yeah, I'm pretty sure one of these masks is the Four Hills one. Yeah, no big deal. So yeah, so the rest of the episode is really Natsume trying to figure out, like, why can I only see the mask? What do I do with this? I love Madara playing with the little cattail. Madara was not really worried this whole episode, which gave me a little bit of confidence and ease. Because when Madara's not freaked out, that's when you're like, okay, we're good. We're not too bad. Mm-hmm. And Madara kind of, you know, says all along, he's like, the mask isn't really powerful anymore. So it's really just figuring out what the mask wants and try to help him find it so that we can just, you know, settle the whole thing and get them out of the way. So I thought that was good. Mm-hmm. He's like, whatever, if you're that worried, I'll take a look at this mask. He's like, I'm more bored than I thought I'd be. I'm like, sure, you wanted to come here to find a sake spring, Madara, so you say, but then you didn't look for the sake spring and you're just bored helping Natsume. Madara was gonna miss Natsume being gone for the weekend, so he snuck with him just to see what was up. Madara will not admit that. He will never admit that, but that's honestly what was really going down. He was just wanting to hang out with Natsume. The part with the river showing up was basically like The Shining. And if you've not seen The Shining, you should go watch it. It is nothing like Natsume's Book of Friends, but it is very creepy. So yeah, I thought that the river showing up was creepy. And then again, Natsume being like, I have to tell the teachers. I'm like, Natsume, how do you not know that that's not really water? And it takes Tanuma showing up to be like, no, it's not really there. That was, again, the only part that took me out of this episode was we've been through 6 seasons. And for Natsume to not get that the water's not real and the boat wasn't real, they were all yokai and yokai inspired, I was like, but you couldn't tell? That was the only thing that took me out of the episode. The only thing. Everything else was great. But yeah, I like the idea of not letting the water get near you. And he's like, you know, and then Natsume wondering, is this something scary or is this okay? I thought that was a really good point to make because, you know, at the beginning of the series, anything that showed up would freak Natsume out and he'd be like, oh, this is a scary yokai, or this is really, you know, probably, you know, something harmful, and he would react based on that. But the one good thing about this that shows we've had 6 seasons at this point is that Natsume no longer is reacting with instant fear. Instead, he's trying to rationalize, is this really a threat, or does it just seem creepy to me because it's not what I'm used to? And that in itself is a very good representation of how Natsume wishes that people would react to him. Because at the beginning of the series, anybody, like the family that he was around, or in the flashbacks, people that were around that saw him react to a yokai thought he was weird and would be like, oh, stay away from him. He's weird. He's harmful. He's dangerous. And that's not exactly true. He was just acting in a way that was different from what their sense of normalcy was. But that didn't make him any less normal. It was just different from what they were used to. So it's a really cool representation of how Natsume has grown to not, you know, kind of pot calling the kettle black. Natsume is no longer reacting to the yokai the way that the people in his past were reacting to him. Instead, he's trying to figure out and get to know the situation to know if it really is worth being afraid of. And that's how he wants people to react to him. And it's just a really good representation. It's good symbolism. It's just a nice theme of how far the series has come from what we saw in the beginning. So yeah. So then, yeah, the mask is moving around from person to person, and which would bother me so much, but Natsume handles it like a pro. It's just literally whenever, you know, he's walking and sees Nishimura with the mask, and that's when he freaks out. And the way he says, he's like, if you do anything to my friend, I'll make you pay. Tanuma does a really good job of playing that off that it's a bug, because honestly, if a wasp was floating around Nishimura, saying that would be kind of corny, but would technically apply to the context. So, good job, Tanuma. Good job. You did good, friend. You did good, bud. You saved your bro. And the mask just saying, I apologize. The mask had the calmest, most serene voice that we've seen a yokai in a while. He was just like, okay. I loved his voice. I loved the voice of the mask. It was really, really good. But yeah, so he's off to figure out what's going on before things escalate. And I love that shot of Madara up on the roof being like, okay, Natsume, what we going to do? And then we meet the priest. And the priest talks about the shrine. Now, I trust the priest story a little bit more than Nishimura, who probably learned it secondhand, right? And he's like, why are there only 3 masks? Can you tell me about them? And then he says, in the distant past, a mountain goddess lived here protected by 4 followers, who all look like crossovers between Shy Guys and Dementors, but it's all good. And then she fell in love with a human, which we just had an episode dealing with that. And so when the human passed away, she took a single hair ornament given to her by the man and hid herself on top of the mountain. And then the flood must have washed down the ornament. When they said ornament in the episode, I thought they meant like a lock of his hair wrapped up in like a ribbon or something. I was thinking a piece of the hair, not an actual hairpin. So my imagery was a little bit skewed until they found the hairpin. Then I'm like, oh, okay. And then the followers stayed at the base of the mountain to protect her. They thought the goddess would be sad if she learned they disappeared as well. So before they disappeared, they had these masks of themselves put up in the shrine. But the one still remains. I kind of feel bad for the one that still remains. Like, I know he knows the goddess still exists and he protects her. But then I'm like, he's all by himself, which is really sad. And it kind of makes me feel like, you know, the idea of, you know, your comrades passing, your friends passing, and you're left behind. We've explored that topic a lot in this series. So I kind of felt bad for the one that was left behind. Like, he was all by himself protecting the mountain. But he seemed okay with it. So, I love Tanuma behind Nishimura and Kinomoto being like, I got it taken care of. It's like, that's right. That's why you're the boyfriend, Tanuma. That's why you're book of boyfriend material. Yes, absolutely. So, Natsume can't sleep. The little mask is like, hey, it washed away somewhere. We have to find it. I'm sorry. The goddess is treasured. And the little mask crying, don't make us feel bad for this little ceramic mask crying. That was really sweet. And then, yeah, the goddess is looking for the hairpin. And Natsume's like, I can't sleep, so I might as well go try to find the hairpin and see where it's at. And so the mask was going from Nomiya Sensei to others looking for it too. The heartbroken goddess's treasure. I love that Madara, you know, he sees Natsume being like, I just want to find this treasure, get it back to her so we can be done with this whole thing, you know. And the thing of it is, Natsume didn't really want to get involved at first, but then he's like, we probably need to help these people because it could lead to something, you know, down the road. I love that he's kind of doing work like an exorcist, but not in an exorcist way. Like an exorcist would have exorcised the mask and possibly the goddess. Like, that's what would have happened. And then who knows what would have happened to the mountain. But Natsume is doing like, he's like an anti-exorcist. He's like, instead of getting rid of the yokai, I'm going to help the yokai accomplish their conflicts. And then they can move on in peace. He's kind of like a priest, I guess. Like an active duty priest. Which Tanuma would love. So there you go. And I love Madara being like, I'll help you. And Natsume's like, you're helping me, Sensei? And he's like, I just want to finish up and get some sleep. Sure, Madara. Sure, Jan. Sure, that's all you want to do. So he finally finds the hairpin that was washed up from the flood and gives it to the goddess there. And I love when this dawn starts to break and she takes the hairpin. Like, you can't see her face, but she looks so pretty there. And then the sunlight and everything. Oh, the light, all of that. I love that. That might be the thumbnail because her with the light is just so beautiful. And again, the idea of the yokai, like, you know, you can't judge a book by its cover. When she first flowed down the river looking like the Grudge, she was terrifying and scary, and it would be easy to go, oh, I don't want to mess with that. That's no. But then once you understand what she's looking for and he got her the hairpin back, she was beautiful. So it's like, you can't judge a book by its cover, you know? And then the little mask there that looks kind of like the Scream mask. A little bit, kind of, in a way. But yeah, it's so cute. And then I'm sure she realized there's still someone here who believes and protects her, which was the mask. I like the idea that Natsume points out that the mask has just a little bit of power left, and it went from one person to another with its words so soft, but even so, it's still there. I like that idea because in terms of the years of the yokai, Natsume by the end of the episode is like, oh, well, this mask will be here for a while. It'll still be here to protect the mountain and protect her. Which is essentially Natsume acknowledging that even after he's gone, in terms of yokai's time frames, the mask will still be there and it'll be fine. I liked that. Also, damn, I'm glad Taki was here to find Nyango Sensei in his boar form. I'm glad she got to see that. That was great. And then, oh, I love it, where she's like, he's so soft and fluffy. So cute. Natsume's like, I love Natsume's little amused face. It's really adorable. But yeah, this was such a cute episode. It was very self-contained, extremely self-contained, but it was a nice way of us, the audience, seeing how much Natsume has grown in terms of being afraid of yokai and not exactly. Natsume's gone through these different motions of being afraid of yokai to wanting to help the yokai, to be very cautionary around the yokai, to now it's all blending together where he's like, I'm cautious, but once I figure out you're not going to harm someone and you just want to get your conflict resolved, I'm all into helping you. That's the growth we like to see. That's the growth we like to see. Yes, yes, please. So thank you, Sunspots, for getting me this episode. Oh, this was amazing to be able to watch without having to worry about subtitles and dubs and all of that, which I have watched a little bit of the Natsume dub in English. It is good, but I'm so used to Kamiya. I'm so used to Kamiya as Natsume. It's like, it's hard to beat that. So anyway, next week, we're going to review the last volume that's supposed to cover season 5, which is volume 16. And then we'll be looking at the season finale, penultimate and season finale episodes 10 and 11 together, which is exciting. I know there are 2 OVA after that, so I'm going to be asking the mods if I can look at the manga that covers the rest of season 6. And then we're going to go from there. So I don't know what's after the OVAs yet. I haven't looked. I just know there's 2 OVAs after next week. But we're getting closer to catching up with Natsume's Book of Friends, and I don't like it at all. I want to keep watching this show forever. Every week I want to watch this show. Why? Why can't we do that? So anyway, but I'm excited to hear your comments down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of Natsume's Book of Friends. Bye!